Hello everybody, February 10th, 2023. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin action over the course of this week. What I said on Monday was that we did see that 22,750 break down, which I thought was key to the next move, the next direction that Bitcoin was going to take. However, it hadn't sustained below it at that point in time. And at that point, we had an hourly RSI breakout and some bull divergences, and so I was looking for at least a short-term bounce. And then, we just are going to wait and see basically if that bounce was to the larger move, 25 to 27 area, or just a corrective bounce to near 24K. Obviously, we saw on Wednesday, or Tuesday rather, it was just a corrective bounce. Not surprising at all. Because both of my main scenarios involved coming down first. And so now we are still between these two. I'm leaning in favor of orange. Honestly, I'll show you on the chart why I'm leaning in favor of that, but we are going to have to be vigilant with the action going forward to make sure that it stays within that orange scenario. Otherwise, we are going to go into the blue scenario, which potentially brings us down more like 18K. So let's go over those options here. First off, let me just zoom out. The main difference between orange and blue is that orange scenario, we have only completed 3 waves. You can see right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we need a 5th wave up still. Whereas blue scenario, I honestly don't like as much because this 3-4 seems a bit suspect. Didn't really get down into that 4 zone, wasn't large enough. But it is a possibility that that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 already done. And so the main difference is orange we should see supporting in this area here where we are right now. Blue would come down much further, even as low as 18K. So orange would look much better, honestly, because that would give us a nice proper 4th wave here before the 5th wave up. But let's zoom into the micro action and take a look at what's going on over here. So one way or another, obviously, we topped out at 24,255, whether that's blue 5 or orange 3 is what we're discussing. And the decline so far has looked pretty corrective, which is good for either scenario. It doesn't rule out the blue scenario necessarily, but it does look good, and it looks promising for orange. So what I think we have is the initial move down is an A wave, right? And we should see 3 waves for corrective action, right? A, B, C. So that's what we're looking for here. We've got that initial wave down as an A. It certainly doesn't look impulsive, which is good. As I said, it looks corrective. And if that's the case, if that's our A wave, this then is a 3-wave move up for B. That's beautiful. And we are now making a C wave. A C wave is typically a 5-wave move. Hopefully it follows impulsive patterns. That makes it much easier to follow. So far, so good on that front. So what I'm looking at here is, let me just remove this for a second just for clarity. If this is our C wave down, this would be our 1 and our 2 of C. We likely completed 3 today. It's possible 3 completed back here and we just had a little shallow 4. If it continues downwards, that's the case. But I would prefer at this point to see a slightly larger bounce. I want to see a bounce up into this 4th wave box. Let me double check that now, make sure the fibs are still correct for that. Okay, 4th wave box is here based on that being 3. And then wave 5 should bring us down to about the bottom of this orange box here. Still within the realm of possibility for this to be the orange zone, or the orange scenario rather. And that would lead us to about 20.7 up to about 21K for that wave 5 of C of 4. And then from there we would look for a move upwards into this area here. And I have it as a nice wide area because it's a little unclear where wave 3 ended. You know, I think I'm happy with that ending there, but that would point us to the top end of this, 26.6 to 28.2. But I have this, you know, kind of extended down into, just because this action was so choppy. It's possible 3 ended earlier, and all of this was kind of corrective action going within that. So anyway, I've got the nice big large box here, but it should probably target the upper end of that, assuming this holds. All right, so there is our orange scenario. Now the problem is we also have a blue scenario in which we get to about the same point here, right around 20.7 to 21, but it's a third wave down instead of the ending of a corrective pattern. So what that means is, if you can see in blue here, I've got 1 and 2. So instead of an A and a B, it's a 1 and a 2. These then are the 5 waves down within 3. We would then see a corrective bounce up for 4 and another move down for 5. And what would probably be the case in this scenario is that all of that would actually just be the A wave. So if we get down here, that's probably just A. We then get a larger bounce for B, and then we head down again into that 18K area. So blue scenario obviously involves a much longer pullback period here than orange. And realistically, what we need to watch for, honestly, is just the reaction from here and the subsequent bounce. Once we get down into this zone, if this is actually the blue scenario as a third wave, we'll then have resistance for blue 4, which would be here, you know, depending on how far down it gets into that box. But we would see a 3-wave move here, and it would have to get back above about 22K in order to say orange scenario is definitely the case and blue scenario is out, right? Because if we just see 3 waves there, we're going to go down further for the rest of that A wave. But if we see 5 up instead and we get through that resistance, which should be about 22K, then we can say with pretty strong confidence that the orange scenario is correct and we are in fact heading upwards. This being then the first wave of the move up to the top of that zone there. Okay, so that's what I'll be looking for. That's why I say it's important we continue to watch the action and make sure that orange is in fact what's going to play out. Either way involves, you know, some more bouncing, probably pressing lower, but definitely, you know, some more bouncing around. And what was the other thing I want to point out? Oh, the fib extension for this, we would draw from the top to 1 up to 2. And what concerns me the most about this is that if this was going to do an impulsive move down, you know, to make that first like A wave down, we would want to see it bounce at around the 618 and then reject at the 382. And you can see that's what happened there. That forms the 1-2 of the downside. And then we would expect wave 3 to get to the 1-2-3-6, which is exactly where we are now. We would expect a bounce for 4 to get up here to the 7-6-4. So it's, unfortunately, you know, kind of these two scenarios are overlapping really, really well. Where, you know, a move down here, that gets us to the 1-6-1-8. That is exactly where a third wave should go. Fourth wave should probably come back up to around the 1-0 extension, maybe the 1-2-3-6, somewhere in there, and then the move down brings us down to about 20.5, 20.4K, something like that. So anyway, this area here, this bounce, I expect lower, and from that area, the bounce is extremely important. It has to break about 22K from that 21K low that it is likely to strike in the near future in order to discern between these two scenarios. So that's what why I'm still even considering that as an option, because even though this doesn't look like an impulsive start, it could be a leading diagonal. It could be. So it is still a concern that the blue could take hold. But even in that case, as I said, we should see lots of bouncing. I mean, this is bounce here, and then another bounce here, right? And we're probably going to chop around in this low 20K area for a while. So even getting into longs in this area is not necessarily a bad idea, because there's likely to be plenty of opportunity to get out, even if blue scenario takes over. All right, one more thing to mention. Back to orange scenario, back to the fibs here, and that fourth wave resistance zone. Here, why did I have that fourth wave there? It's good I did this again. I don't know what the heck I did. That's weird. Okay, fourth wave box. My apologies for the error. This is the fourth wave box here. I don't know what I was drawing before. That gave me the higher zone. Oh, I must have gone from here. Yeah, that's wrong. Okay. Sorry about that. Here's our fourth wave zone. My bad. 21,700 to 22,050, basically, is fourth wave zone. Okay, and what I was trying to point out is invalidation of this impulse would be if it breaks above the 0.5 fib, which currently is about 22,240. So not saying it can't go down more as a larger choppy whatever, but it would break the impulse down anyway, and would likely invalidate the blue scenario at that point as well. So even if if it breaks 22,240, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to make a new low down here somewhere just as part of more choppy corrective action, but it does make blue less likely. It means we're probably just going to head down a little bit further, or potentially if it breaks that and does 5 waves, then the bottom is already in, which is a possibility as well. Even though C wave really should have 5 waves, I think that's the best way to operate right now, is expecting another wave down. It's possible with corrections, it's kind of hard to track them. Certainly possible that it has already ended as well. All right, I hope that made sense. To me, this is a great sign. It's a healthy pullback the market absolutely needed in order to potentially, hopefully, remain healthy, and it will look quite healthy if it does get us up into this area here for that 5th wave up. And then I will be very, very happy to buy on the next pullback, because once we get here, that just gives us our first wave, and we will pull back once again from there. All right, that sums it up. Everybody, you guys have a great weekend. I will talk to you all again on Monday. We'll see if the weekend action has given us any further clues. Hopefully we'll get this 4th wave done with, and maybe the 5th. We'll see if we have a dump on Sunday or something. And I'll touch base with you all again the beginning of the week.